It is intent, right? Yeah.
That's what they say to me at the gym. Like in my head, I'm like, I feel so happy I'm in the gym. They're like, you're serious, Scott. But speaking of focus, hey, that's what we got to do. We got to bring it in sometimes. Say, everybody, let's take a knee. Let's gather around Coach Norm today. Mike Norm, Mike Wallace, and get some tips and insights on the military career progression process, lessons learned, so on and so forth, for especially the senior leaders who kind of get overlooked during the military transition. Resources out there. So we've done a little bit of the conversations between Mike and I before, and we really want to launch this into a more regular thing. And when available, bring in some success stories. And so, Mike, we're really happy to have you with us. And there's Tom Welsh joining, popping in. He knows you as well. And so, Mike, how do you pronounce your last name, by the way?
Yeah,
it's Nunziato. Yeah. If you look at it, it really is exactly as it says. It looks on the but everybody sees it and gets like crazy on it in the intimidation factor.
Hey, Scott, how about this before we jump in? And I love Michael's joining us here today, right? He's going to bring us up to speed on some pretty exciting successes. But just tell us just quickly what's going on with US Vet Wealth, right? I saw you posted something here recently. You're going to be
let's
an in-person get-together, right?
I'd like to do that. I mean, you inspired me to say, hey, if we're going to have an office here at Gather, we've got to use
might as well use it.
These nice locations and stuff. I mean, I've been doing the online thing because I was overseas when I got started doing this, 15 years ago. So I've been doing Skype for over a decade. So this has all kind of been regular for me. That said, I do like to meet with people in person.
Yeah.
And so Jen and I wanted to put together a workshop here locally. Now that we've got the book, don't forget your war chest. In hardback copy. You can download it for free and get on our portal. And maybe I'll log in here at the end of our session here and show people how to do that.
Hey, did you say if I show up this weekend? I think it's this Saturday. Is that what you said?
No, it's the 19th.
19th.
On the 19th.
Okay,
so I'll bring up a screen share. Well, anyways, we'll drop the link below so people can sign up for it. But if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can just go to Mike or my profiles and get signed up for that. If you're watching this on YouTube, or we're also on Facebook and Twitter, which is not Twitter anymore. It's now
X.
I don't expect anybody to be paying attention to us over on X because that's just a wild world. At the same time, you never know. Figure we do that. So that's what we've got coming out. Basically, we've got the book published. We've been working on our concept of the war chest.
Right.
The war chest is a strategy to tie whatever you're doing financially to the whole concept of military retirement. What's the point of military retirement? To stop following orders. Yeah. But then if all your money's tied up in TSP and you can't access it until you're 65, what do we do in that kind of in-between time? Well, first you got to go get that high-paying job, which is what Mike is going to have you do, so you can play some catch up. And then what I like to help do is when you want to, avoid paying for some of those costs of government benefits if you don't need them. And then maybe recognizing that if you get the job Mike's going to help you get and tie that onto your pension, you're now in kind of a high income situation. And so maybe we need to kind of look at these things and these opportunities different, especially given all the times we're in and how things are changing. So that's what the War Chest is all about. So we're excited to do a workshop in Virginia Beach at Town Center in the Gather location. Cool co-working office space.
Very cool
there. And so we'll love to meet people in person. If you show up, I got free copies of the book for you, and we'll answer all your questions and really kind of do a beta testing, talk about what do people really want to learn? When it comes to the SBP decision specifically, most people have kind of already made their decision. They want to know what to do next. And so, Tom, if we could have anybody who's talked with us in the past or worked with us and kind of gets the idea a little bit more, would love to have you in person. I know Tom's a little bit far away, but so anybody locally, we're doing it on a Saturday morning. Sometimes that's the ideal time. Sometimes it's not the ideal time. There is no ideal time. We're just gonna. What I liked about Saturday is we can kind of own the space, and then it's town center. There's some restaurants you can go get sushi or something afterward. But so that's the idea, Mike. Thanks for asking. But yeah, I was definitely inspired by what you do. We can do all the. I mean, hey, we love doing the live video and stuff, but what we do in the military is get in front of troops and talk to them. So really appreciate that.
No, it's good. I saw you posted that, and I just kind of wanted to give it a quick shout out. So I'm excited for you to head that direction.
What about any specific announcements on the Blue Water side of things? I mean, I know you're packed on your cohorts.
We are. In fact, this month specifically, right? We kind of take a quick unload this month, and we're getting ready to head out to Reno, Nevada. So a lot of our members know, right? That's the Navy's tailhook convention out there, and so it gives us a chance to kind of get out there and meet with a lot of members in large numbers, right? We're going to do it a little bit different this year. This will be our third year in attendance, and we've historically kind of had an opportunity where we look to kind of deliver the message, and we had conference rooms, and we collaborated with the Tailhook organization, and they were a huge help to us out there. But really, listening to what our members want, right? I mean, they value those one-on-one discussions a lot more than kind of piling people into a large room and talking about, career progression and some of those next steps. So we heard that loud and clear. And so we won't necessarily have a booth per se, but Steve Weeman, myself, we'll be out in force out there, just kind of making the rounds and just kind of meeting with people. And we'll be interfacing a lot with our corporate partners of Two Circle, Tech Air, and Check Six are all be out there. So that'll give us a chance to kind of interface with them, in person, make sure we're continuing to meet their needs. Oh, by the way, good news, right? Check Six just finished their first year corporate partnership with Blue Water. And we just this morning renewed for a second year, right? So happy to continue to have those guys on the team and be a part of what we're doing. And so we're really excited about that. So, so that's probably the near term. But then September takes us right back up into your neck of the woods, Michael, right back up in the DC area. New conference room location right across the water from kind of where we were at there, Mike, when you attended this past, I guess it was March, right?
Yep.
And so
like forever ago,
area there in a launch facility is the business name, and nice conference room up there. So in fact, we're going to head up that way here even towards the end of this week, do a quick site survey, make sure everything's tracking. But that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that cohort is completely full, and we've already got 5 or 6 people on a standby list. So, to our members out there, we would love to kind of increase our throughput, but we're just not willing to do that at expense of making the groups larger. Michael, firsthand, right? We keep the groups small. We bring in our partnering professionals at the round table. We usually have 2 to 3 instructors there. So it's a small group, high touch, right? And it's a quick catch shot into the network and a quick way to absorb the message and get all of that insight and that oversight that our members want and need as they get tracking towards their next success, right? And so we're excited about that. October has us back down here in Norfolk, and all the way towards the end of the year. If you look all the way back to the December, we're back in DC, and that cohort is almost full right now as well too. So we're already starting to get questions about 2024 schedule. We're working it as fast as we can, you guys, right? So, if you give me probably until, Q4, right, as we step into October, we'll look to kind of have that published and let everybody know where we're going to be. And, I think 2024 is going to be interesting for everybody listening. There might be a trip, out to Naples, Italy, right, supporting the 6th Fleet and NSA Naples guys. There's likely to be another trip out to San Diego, Pensacola. We're looking at Tampa and supporting, SOCOM. So there's some growth and some interesting conversations that we're having. But also here just in the local area as well, too. We're looking at, how to support those skill bridge participants with the city of Norfolk. So we're just starting to have some of those interesting conversations and with also the Naval Academy Alumni Association, right? We've had some tentative discussions with them, and we would love to figure out a way to to kind of bring Blue Water as a support structure for their senior leadership up there, right? We think it's a good fit. They just haven't quite recognized that yet, but we'll get them there, right? We'll get them there. So we're excited.
Hey, you're going to need a private jet to fly you around to all these cool military. Well, you just
the one thing in Blue Water, a lot of aviators, right? Yeah. I mean, so.
Just hop on Space A or something. But no, very excited to hear that, and really that leads us into today's conversation with Mike. Well, first tell us, how did you find out about Blue Water? How did you get this process started?
Yeah,
Mike, tell us about yourself first and kind of how you
sure. Well, first off, the most important thing is I was the naval attaché to Italy, and I was at NATO in Italy. So Norm, when you need a translator when you go to Sixth Fleet,
we know somebody, right? Yeah,
I'll carry your bags if you need it. Just to get back over there.
So your last name, that I'm guessing, was Italian, then?
Yeah. Okay.
I was confused before. I didn't know.
It sounds a little Irish, but you got to just to get past it. You kind of get there. I was looking at transitioning out of the service kind of towards the end of last year, coming back from Rome. I hadn't really made any decisions yet. And I was trying to make it more of a family decision, for what was the first time in a 20 plus year career as you're kind of making those decisions. And I had a really good buddy of mine, Bob Ruby, was also retiring in the last year. And the first thing out of his mouth when I told him I was thinking about it was to get a hold of Norm in the group and figure out what was going on. And I cannot begin to express how important that relationship has been over the last, I feel like it sounds like it's only 7-8 months, but it feels like an eternity, Norm. I think you and I have a joint calling plan now on Verizon based off of all the conversations that we have.
I love it though, right? And staying in touch with our members, a lot of people go, now that we've had hundreds of people through, how do we meet the demand and how do we do that? And it's really, we just stay up to speed. The small group allows us to stay up to speed with what individuals are doing. Individuals that reel us in to varying different degrees as we progress with them through their experiences. It makes it easy, right? At a moment, you know what I'm talking about, Michael, like you just pick up the phone and just go, hey, this is what they came back with, or this is what they said. And we have this dialogue and not that, we are, the end all be all into insight into these situations, but just having been there and done that and navigated that in large part ourselves, just allows us to add that insight right ad hoc. And so, we've chatted a lot, but it's been good though.
Yeah, yep.
It's been worth it, right? You're landing.
100%. As we're kind of going through things, I think one of the things I appreciate the most is the soundboard. Between Norm and Horace Weeman. I've known Horace for a long time too. Just being able to kind of talk through things. Because you don't know what you don't know when you're transitioning out of the service. You have a lot of questions. You have not a lot of answers. For our level, ETAP tries to do a lot of things, but it kind of misses the mark on a few of them. But it helps with a lot as well. There's it's just one of the many tools that you have as you're trying to do the thing right by yourself and your family as you're moving on.
I think if I could, right? I mean, we thought long and hard about, how we wanted to implement Blue Water and the message that we wanted to project, right? And clearly we don't spend a lot of time on how to do your DD 214 or how to do your VA medical or how to do it. Now, we all have experienced that personally, and I'm happy to share with you personal insight on how I navigated that, or any one of our career progression consultants can do the same, right? That's the credibility they bring to the table. But the curriculum and what we wanted to focus on, and Scott, you and I have talked about this in the past, right? I just didn't feel that was the high ground that I wanted to try to stand on. I wasn't going to tell everybody that we were, hey, we've got the Blue Water approach to doing your DD 214 or your VA medical or whatever it happens to be. We certainly are happy to have that conversation with you because we've navigated ourselves, but that's not part of the curriculum, right? We wanted to stay laser focused on that next step, right? You know, how to navigate that space in your career progression, how to understand, you know, what's important to you, and how to preserve those things that are important to you while you're achieving, you know, that vision of your next success. And so, you know, we've had members in the past come to us and said, "Hey, Mike, you know, what do you think about, you know, well, Scott, your swim lane, survivor benefit plan, or, you know, TSP, or VA medical, or these other kind of things?" And we certainly have a wealth of resources that we're capable of and happy to kind of redirect people to, and they're part of the Blue Water Network. And in those instances, we do that. But we just, you know, TAP has its place, ETAP has its place, and there's some programs. And I really feel those are government-owned programs, and the government has a responsibility, I think, personally, to be smart on that, to deliver the right message to me, so I know how to navigate their paperwork, their program.
Their bureaucracy.
Exactly.
But that's what they should be doing. It's not the military's job to get you a job. It's the military's job to maybe get you out of the military efficiently, right? But
exactly
getting back to kind of what you were saying, Mike, with, you know, the soundboard, that made me think about, okay, well, what's the difference between ETAP and what Blue Water, or any sort of, you know, individualized program? Hey, if you're just figuring it out yourself, it's about strategy, right? And so I'm guessing a lot of that soundboarding had to do with recognizing there's more to this. Yeah, there's the tactics might be in there of how you fill out the resume and stuff, but I'm just curious to sit back and listen to how you guys maybe. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that soundboard. Like, maybe kind of recreate some of those discussions that were more meaningful or more memorable right now, in a way, if you can remember anything.
Yeah, no, they're all fresh and top of mind, as they've been ongoing for the last several months, especially in the last couple of weeks. You know, everything's still very fresh as things are progressing, and I don't hit my terminal leave date for another month or so. And you know, the fact that I had an offer come in earlier is significant, and no small thanks to those soundboard conversations that we had.
Cool.
You know, and for me, my background in old E2 NFO turned FAO. I've kind of done a wide depth of jobs, especially in the last couple of years, that have to deal with interactions, relationships, networking, and holding and strengthening relationships that you kind of identify and pursue. So that's kind of how my situation came about, was going after one of these network opportunities that I saw a unique chance to get in with a medium-sized defense company. And we kind of nurtured that relationship over, you know, a long game, 7-8 months of back and forth and figuring each other out and getting the right the thing that I think winds up being the most important, and that's the fit.
Mike gets the gold star. He embraced the message and the vision and just put it into motion. And you really did, Michael. You did a fantastic job. All the networking, all the strategy, the market analysis, everything that we lay out, and you walked right through that. And
yeah, I appreciate that, Norm. I mean, it was important.
Let me back up. Think back when we kicked off the cohort. And the very first discussion that we had with the group, strategy. I can almost see everybody's eyes rolling back into their head, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're going, really? This is how you're going to start this day? You're going to talk to me for 45 minutes or an hour about strategy? And the short answer is yes. But go back to that time, Mike, and just tell me personally in your life, was there value in that discussion and taking a look at a strategy and figuring out what your personal mission, vision, priorities were?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for that thing, you know, it's funny you put it like that, Norm, because you hear strategy and what you've thought about strategy for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And you know, the strategy in the military is one thing, and this strategy is completely different. So you have to kind of take a step back and go, no, I need to get a feel for what they're talking about here. And what it comes down to is, you're building up a strategy for yourself, and you've never done that before. You know, you've built up strategies for O-plans, you've built up strategies for your air wing staff on how to spend OPTAR and how to go after this thing, but you've never done Mike's strategy for his next stage. That's a significantly different thing. But you can attack it kind of in the same way and set up what you want to do for priorities, where your goals want to be and where you want to be at, where you want to live, what you're looking at for compensation, where you want to fit in. And that kind of stuff is it's in the back of your mind, but it's not there because you haven't thought about that kind of stuff ever. And maybe before you joined the service, 1,000 years ago when you were actually jumping into it. But for that thing, it kind of made me start focusing on what I know now about myself, right? What is the toolbox that I have inherent that I've built up over the last couple of years? Yep. And I think one of the biggest things I've had to get over is, I think Norm, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I was having a little bit of imposter syndrome as I'm walking through these conversations with different companies. Because you pop up the resume, which is much better than what an eval is or a fit rep looks like, but it's very fluffy, and it's you got some great information in there, and when you read it, hopefully you're impressed with yourself, because that's how I kind of marked it. I'm like, oh, I've done a lot of stuff, that's awesome, and you're hoping that the people that are reading it are doing the same thing, right? But at the end of the day, am I really that person? Am I really going to jump into that day one in the company and go, I wasn't full of it when I sent you this stuff? I do have the background, I do have a thirst for knowledge, and it takes a lot of soul searching to make sure that you were ready in order to jump in there. And that was a lot of our conversations that we had as we were coming up. I know
those, right? Just conveying back and forth that, hey, this is a unique environment, and this is what it's going to feel like. And don't be so quick to solve your future employer's problems. Let them make the decisions and assessments, right? I mean, I think we, as honest brokers in the military, when we're engaging our potential future employers, and I won't say everybody, but it's not uncommon for us to want to solve, hey, I'm a really hard worker and I learn really quick, so if you hire me, I'm going to step in and learn this. But if you take a step back and translate, what your future employer hears is, you really just told me that you don't know what you want to do or how to do it, right? I mean, there's a little bit in the delivery, right? And but our membership, just like you, Michael, right, infinitely talented, infinitely capable, and having worked in the corporate environment, and having been surrounded by those individuals, I would stack up any one of our members, yourself included, with the work ethic and the drive and the insatiable appetite for figuring out problems and being able to do that throughout a full spectrum of challenging environments, right? So, but anyway, I just love to hear you say that, right? That there was value, in the approach there, and it's kind of a maturation process for your brain, right? Hey, this is a new environment I'm stepping into.
Yep, and you have to kind of be a sponge when you're doing that. I think one of the big things that you'll see, as I talk to colleagues and peers that are in the same situation, maybe haven't thought through things as much, or been working so hard right up to the end that they haven't been able to give themselves the time in order to have that conversation with themselves or with the group. They just continue to harp on this. Well, I already have a lot of experience, and I'm ready, and I'm the guy. And as soon as I get in there, I was a leader in the Navy for 25 years, and I'm going to be a leader in your company. And you're like, take a deep breath a bit, and kind of reassess where your thought process is.
Maybe on your LinkedIn profile, CEO equivalent, COO equivalent, right? You're like, there's a little difference there, right? And so,
yeah. Tell me this, from both of your guys' perspective, how is that still a confusing thing for people coming out of the military? In this day and age, with all the connection that we're you'd think that it had bled out. Everybody's out there more, and we hear feedback from people that are out there, but it seems like maybe we've just been deployed too much that we don't pay attention to this at all until we're at our retirement briefing. Because that holds people back, because then they're kind of going to their new job and I'm upset, I'm not happy here or whatever, and maybe they didn't give themselves a chance to just readjust to a new environment. So I'm just always curious, what do you think's going on? How do we, or is that the way it is?
Yeah. No, I think people kind of knocked it there, Scott, is that people haven't given themselves the opportunity to retire. I'm not physically, just kind of mentally. and get there, whether that's, your own self onboarding process, or, or departing process, whatever you want to call it, from your time in the service. One of the things that I would push out to people is that, if you were setting at the end of your time in the military, you're 18 months to retirement, or a year to retirement, or 6 months to retirement, you don't have to know what you want to do 100%, but I hope you prepared yourself enough to do the right skill sets in order to do something that you want to do productively. Because I've heard a lot of people that, did this one thing for 20 years, and they're like, I know that that's what's going to get me there. And like, yeah, but you can't do that one thing when you get out into the real world. And you had these other opportunities that you could have utilized. You just failed to do that because you didn't have the time to think, how am I going to set myself up in the right way to get and make the transition? Whether if you want to go into the defense industry, you want to do contracting, take the last 6 months before you leave and jump on to Defense Acquisitions University and start taking classes on military sales and acquisitions and these kinds of things that you can jump in that are there, but nobody knows about them. They definitely don't go over them in ETAP. And, but there's things that you can start looking at to go, okay, this is where I want to go. This is where I can do it. Go to O2O, which normally we've talked about before, and do the PMP course, or, jump in a Shipley method course for business development. There's so many things that are out there that we just don't give ourselves enough time mentally to jump in, because we're still just scratching for those last couple of weeks and months to go in there. And I'm still feeling that now. I have 5 weeks left before I hit terminal, and I'm in this whirlwind of things going on, and I'm trying to make sure I have my physical checklist and my mental checklist of things I got to do. But I would say that, mentally preparing yourself is not just a phrase. You actually have to do that.
Scott, and it's so important because, if I could stereotypically look at our members right now, the one thing I feel safe in saying about every single one of them is, if they arrive at a position that they are not happy with, they will not stay. They will leave. And so I come all the way back to the importance of having a strategy. And Michael remembers this, working through that market analysis, understanding qualitatively and quantitatively, is this a good fit for me? Is this going to preserve everything that I put in my strategy bucket? And do I have alignment here? And if you do, right, there's a good chance that when you pursue this to an offer and you now land there, there's a better than average chance that will be a good fit for you because you've done the legwork up front. And you've heard this before, Michael, so I apologize at the risk of kind of being redundant, but Scott, we go over with our members, and you have to say it out loud for it to sink in. Hey, heads up, everybody, a little bit of foot stomping. You no longer have a detailer. You don't have a placement officer. You have no community manager. You don't have a monitor. I mean, depending on what service you come from, there's nobody managing that career for you, right? It's all you now. And if you let that sink in, and I'm not to say that when we wore the uniform that we didn't have aspirations on where we wanted to go. We certainly did, right? But I think we would all agree that you had people overseeing your career and lining up those next hurdles and opportunities for you to step into and compete against, so you can get to the next and the next and the next, right? That goes away. Now, having a strategy is important because, hey, these big rocks are important to me, and figuring out what those big rocks are.
Actually,
building your execution plan around preservation of those big rocks, right? I think that's
absolutely, Mike. But I was going to say, just real quickly, I actually don't think it does go away. Without a strategy, the risk is you end up at another, institution that's gonna lump you into their system, and they're gonna put you through what's probably gonna be some level of mediocrity, and you're gonna get capped out. And
again, in that case, I come back to the point I made first. If you get there, you're unhappy, it's unfulfilling, you're not gonna stay. I mean, the pedigree of individuals that walk through our door and of our members, I'm confident in saying that if you get someplace and this is not what you thought it was, or this is not a good fit, you're not going to stay. And I don't wish that on anybody, because that just thrusts you back out into this career progression space, right? and it's time. And in this next phase, Scott, you and I know, right? Time is money, right? And if you're burning more time, that's less income to put into the war chest or wherever it is you want to put it. Not that it all has to be about money, but in this instance, a lot of it is about that, right? There's a finite earning potential here, right? So
well, when I think the real money problem I see, at least from the financial perspective, you know, when it comes to, I get two questions usually when from a retiree is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, kind of an approach. So, hey, there's where we have a strategy. And then is, I don't know what I'm worth, even if I do. And it's like, okay, well, we can equate the military paycheck. We can do all that kind of backwards planning math. But really, I think part of the strategy, at least what I did for myself personally, is I remember telling myself at one point, Scott, give yourself the permission to go find out, whatever that means.
Yeah.
You know, just something. So I started exploring. And Mike, I'm curious, and I know you're still kind of in the process, but is there anything that's kind of surprised you in a way that you weren't like, as you're coming up strategy and going through these, like what's like, holy cow, I didn't think I would be that guy or whatever.
Yeah, actually, I've had a couple of things that have popped up,
aside from moving, Michael, aside from moving into the house in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, in the middle of this, which happened. I mean, I've been in this house for 3 weeks, so this is everything rains and pours with things, with decisions and whatnot.
In one of our sounding conversations one day, I go, Mike, what do you know? He goes, you won't believe this. I'm moving out of this house and moving into another. I'm like, as if you're not already busy enough. You throw in a move right in the middle of it.
Yeah, throwing in a move right in the middle of it. Yeah, we like to keep things interesting.
Imagine people are trying to do life insurance in the middle of that. You know, it's like, God, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
I
talk about this.
I would say, I had an idea of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be like, and what I wanted to do when I retired. I'm 100% away from where I thought that was going to be if you asked me that question 7 months ago. So that's something in itself. I didn't really know where I could land. I knew I wanted to do security cooperation. I'm really big on international relationship development. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to put that out into the world as pick me and I'll help you with your international relationship building. I don't, you don't know what that is. No matter how many things you put on your resume that say that. So, I mean, that's something that you're kind of starting to come in there. When I was talking before about the imposter syndrome thing, the other side of it is that actually, man, you do have a lot of unique opportunities that you can push out into this thing. And when you push out that first note on LinkedIn, where and I did it very like stealthy on my first one, I think like 2 months ago, when I just kind of pushed out to the world, was like, as I've decided to retire, and I went off on a different complete tangent, but I had those like 3-4 words right in the beginning of it, and then I started getting all these messages. Wait, what's going on? You're getting out? You're retiring? What's going on? I was like, yeah. More information to follow, whatever. But I started getting, people to come from my old network and this thing, hey, what do you think about coming over to State Department and jumping in with this European affairs thing? Hey, what do you think about coming over here? I can use somebody like you at this thing. And as I started to kind of realize that, I said, wow, I actually do have a base that I can go off of, that I can roll into. And I think with that, I think the most important thing I've learned, especially in the last couple of weeks, is that the network that you've built up cannot stop when you land or even are about to land. Because you've done all this work over the course of months, over a year to get into this position and do all this stuff.
That's awesome. And I think Steve Weeman's listening in. And Steve, if you're listening in, I didn't pay Michael to say that. He said it all on his own. So, gold star for being a great student and listening. Landed, now what? You got to keep you into things, right? So yeah. I love it. Thank you, Michael.
And that's it. I mean, you can't, just because this thing came in and I'm in the process of the acceptance of this, I don't cancel the meetings I was going to have next week with my State Department friend, or I'm not going to cancel, because just like Norm said, I'm very confident that where I'm landing, I'm going to be very happy about. The team is great, and that was my most important thing, was the fit that I was going to go into. The team that we're going to be surrounded is small, but they're amazing. a good mix of foreign military and some straight up BD and defense industry guys with good leadership, and it's exciting to me to jump into that. But on that note, you got to be ready.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Norm. But you got to be ready, because as you guys said, and it's correct, who's in charge of your career now, right? So, you have to keep maintaining those opportunities to push out there, whether it's just to build your network to do the current job that I'm about to go do, or to build the network just in case in the next 6 months, next year, the next 2 years, you're kind of expanding out and doing other things. And maybe actually, I'd like to jump into this thing now. And, if you go and do that and you haven't called somebody in 2 years because you've been at your job, you kind of screwed. So you need to kind of
people, right? Your network's people, and they still need something from you just because you landed. It's a reciprocation kind of thing. But you said something interesting there, Michael and Scott. I wanted to just point it out for you. A lot of individuals that do reach this point don't know what they want to do, right? And Mike, you said it very succinctly, like, hey, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to go out to the world. I'm saying, hey, I'm stepping into a transition, or as we like to say, career progression. And as we do that, then we espouse, you start coming across opportunities, just like you explained it. And we tell our members, you're going to come across these opportunities. And I'm not saying that these opportunities that you stumble across or presented to you, they may be the best thing, but there's a process in your market analysis to assess these things qualitatively and quantitatively. I'm aware of this opportunity, but prove to yourself that it is a good fit. You owe it to yourself to do that. Instead of, and I love this analogy, being like a third grader stepping out on the playground at recess and standing there until somebody picks you to be on their kickball team, and you go, okay, I'm going to go, be on your kickball team just because you picked me. That's a horrible way to approach your career progression. You might get lucky and find a good fit, Mike. I think you would agree with me. Yeah, that may line up, but it absolutely may not. And coming all the way back to what I said earlier, if you are not happy, you will leave. And I just don't want that for any of our members. It's not to say that you have to stay where you're at, forever, right? That's not the point we're trying to make. I don't want you to be thrust out because you made a bad choice. I would rather you progress and mature, and then either seek a different role in the company or some additional responsibility wherever your, personal mission, vision, priorities, or your market analysis takes you to at that point. But be deliberate about it, right? And I would say that's probably what we espouse and what we put out. Did I say that right, Mike? Because I think that's pretty much
perfect. Yep.
Done. Well, let me get your guys' thoughts on this, though, to expand on kind of Mike's thoughts on continuing to network, because what I often suggest to people, at least from a strategy perspective, when they do tell me, Scott, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Well, it's like, oh, go explore. And maybe not explore for opportunities per se. Yeah, obviously, if an opportunity comes up, a job opportunity, sure. But if you really don't know what you want to do when you grow up, the job opportunity is more of a stepping stone to again, get that paycheck while we're getting out of the military. If it's a few years, whatever, if you like it, don't like it, you're going to figure that out one way or the other. But that whole, what's my strategy to really kind of, find it is that I know that what I'm doing on a daily basis, I'm serving those whom I'm meant to serve and being compensated well for it, whatever that means. And I thought that's one of the best things about LinkedIn is it allows you to network well outside of your comfort zone pretty easy and quickly. Even if you're just commenting on somebody's post, they're going to notice it. They're going to appreciate it, And so knowing how LinkedIn can work, one, you might connect with these people. But if the strategy is to be curious, thanks, Tom, for joining us, man. Take care. If the strategy is to literally just be curious, now think of it as how are some of these people doing it? That's what happened to me. I started to notice veterans out there who weren't necessarily retiring high-ranked people. They were making a bunch of money just doing a YouTube, show or a podcast or had an online website business or something like that. I was like, how are these guys doing this? They're not, none of this is, they're not bringing none of this stuff up. And whether it's small business or just, how do you go from that first post-military job to that kind of next level stuff? Well, there's somebody on LinkedIn that's done it before. And a lot of times they're out kind of doing what we're doing right now. They're teaching it in some way. It's just a matter of noticing the various different ways of, hey, it's not just, go get a job 9 to 5 anymore. From Mike was saying at the beginning, it's like, we got to really explore, what are the true possibilities of getting out of the military. And one of them happens to be, what we're typically getting, going through in the military transition process. Hey, how do you do the resumes? How do you network interview? Yeah, we got to train for that stuff too. I'm just curious, what do you guys think about? I mean, Mike, that's what you did. You went to the corporate world, but now you're, on your own, started a business, kind of doing the next thing. Are guys giving themselves permission enough to be curious at that next level stuff, so they don't get unhappy, and then stay, just disgruntled or something like that, where it could get bad for everyone down the road? So I always like throwing that kind of idea out there. We're talking about, building, continuing networking and being part of the community, really.
Yeah. No, it's a fair ask. And, my hope would be that Blue Water and all that we're trying to build and bring to the table here for our members would really reinforce or encourage members. Don't be afraid to think way outside the box. There are a lot of rewarding government contracting jobs, defense industry jobs. We have a lot of pilots that want to get out and just pursue airlines. I say just pursue, and that's not what I mean, right? I mean, it's a logical step. It's
focus.
Yeah. I mean, it's
that's the strategy. Just the strategy.
And hey, we all need talented people to fly us around the world to various different places we got to go. I don't want there to be not talented people doing that.
But you know what pilots tell me?
But the point I was going to try to make, I'm kind of getting around to it, is if somebody wanted to step out of the fenced yard and said, like Steve Weeman is a great example. Hey, I want to pursue Amazon, or like myself, or I want to go to Microsoft, or I want to go. We've had members go to Meta and Facebook. We've got members that have pursued Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and some of these big KPMG and some of these startup companies. We've got, Blue Water members that are out plugging in with private equity efforts and some exciting things. And it really all comes down to, and Michael hit the nail on the head, it's all about network. It's absolutely all about network and earning trust and confidence within that network. There may be some people that disagree with me on this thing. You're going to spend a lot of time building a resume. And we start our resume segment up front. We apologize to you in advance. I go, you're going to spend a lot of time doing this. It's your ticket to the dance. It has to be good. You got to do this. But you know what? The lifespan is only about 30 seconds. Once you're in the keep pile, I'm not looking at this. I now want to start talking to you, right? It's lived. But you got to have a good one to make that connection, right? In addition with the networking that you're going to build. So Blue Water, we want to be that bridge. If you want to think big and go deep and leave the reservation and go to some Silicon Valley startup, whatever, we envision a day that we're going to have a network that you're going to be able to plug in and do that. Yeah. And I'm excited about that because I think the pedigree of our members, Michael, you know what I'm talking about, right? You guys move mountains. Mm-hmm. You move heaven and earth. There's nothing that we can do. What we lack from your counterpart who has never wore the cloth of the nation is what? It's the network. And that's what we want to build to level that playing field, right? So we bring our individuals in. I know our active duty men and women don't have time to build a competitive network. It's okay. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. We're going to build this for you, and we're going to plug you into this network, and you're going to be successful as you go forward. That's, what we want to build. And Michael, congratulations to you. But right? This is a little bit like The Godfather. I don't need anything from you today. We're just going to serve. But tomorrow, if somebody walks through the door and they go, hey, I want to do what Michael did. Well, who's the most current, relevant, credible point of contact we have in the network at that time? Yeah. Right. It's going to be, it's going to be Michael. And we're likely to call and just say, would you make time to have a conversation with this person? And of course,
and we did that. Yep.
We're all cut from that cloth, right? We don't tell anybody no. So Blue Water amplifies that because we have resources, we have instructors, we have message. We have a lot of that to make this one-on-one informational landing reports and all these kind of insights that we preserve here. We make a very powerful connection, right? Anyway, that's I get past.
Yeah,
what you think?
No, I would also, I think the biggest problem that we have, and I certainly had it too, is that kind of that fear that Norm talked about a little bit too. You've been indoctrinated into a system for such a long time. Then you've been in this lane for such a long time. Maybe you've been into aviation, maybe you went to foreign area officer, maybe you became an intelligence officer or HR, but you're still in this like stovepipe, right? Of what that is. And you've been doing that for such a long time, and you're trying to expand there, and you're afraid to do that because you need to pay a mortgage, because you need to get your kids to school, you need to do all this stuff. So when you're doing that, that's a consistent fear that you have, that I need to do something quickly, or I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. So I maybe one day I want to do this, but today I got to do this so I can get there. And that's so trying to be able to set yourself up. I think the strategy kind of helps with that, because you kind of list out the things that you've done in your past, in your career, that you enjoyed doing. This is really the first time that you can say, I love doing this, and this when I was in the Navy. I hated doing this, and this in the Navy. And I don't want to do any of that. Now, for me, on a personal note, I love being a department head in a squadron. I love mentoring, junior officers when I was a FAO. I love that being a division officer and doing that stuff, and love the opportunity to lead people. Yeah. I do not want to do that when I move in. I don't want to lead a team of 100 people. I don't want to, manage their career progression that comes in there. And that's me. But there are people that want to do that. They loved it so much that that's their most important thing they want to do. And when you push those lists out and you go, this is what I loved, right? Now you can take that and present it to your advisors, present that to your network, and go, hey, this is what I loved. Yeah. What is this? What does this mean? And for me, it became, well, what do you think about program management? Oh, okay. Well, what do you think about business development? Okay. You're like, okay, so let's start pulling on that and going with that. And you start realizing that, actually, you know what? I really want to do this business development thing. I love talking to people. I love engaging with them. I love building up relationships and finding opportunities to do things together. I think that's where I want to be at. If you asked me that 7 months ago, I wouldn't have told you that.
Like Jen just popped in and said to you, Michael, right? It's like, it doesn't have to be forever, right? There's no one-way doors in this new world, right? And maybe you will continue to grow and mature in a role that's maybe going to open some other doors in the near future. You don't know what that is, right? So, but you got to take charge of it and manage it, because you don't have a placement, you don't have a detailer, you don't have a community manager, you don't have a monitor, you don't have any of these things. So,
and be okay with the freedom. That freedom is that. I mean, you've never had it before. Be okay with that freedom. Jen's comment is, spot on. Be okay with going. Just today I had coffee with an old NATO colleague of mine who works the State Department, and they're developing a brand new Defense Security Cooperation service that they're going to run out of DSCA in DC here. It's going to be a grassroots thing. We're going to manage all security cooperation all over the world, and and I love doing that kind of work. And maybe I want to jump into that in 5 years or so, and that opportunity could be there to go in there. Just because I take a job offer today or tomorrow with this company, I didn't close the door to what I could do in 5 or 10 years somewhere else.
Right? And you're giving yourself the freedom to stay connected, right? I love that.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, can I go back and just address one thing you said?
Sure.
Scott, you mentioned as individuals are stepping into their transition or career progression. And Michael, I'm interested in what you think about this too. You'll remember we talked about this at the cohort, but Scott, many individuals go, I don't know what I'm worth, right? And we kind of enter into that conversation, and I lightheartedly engage in the conversation. I look at everybody in the room and I go, hey, listen, here's a newsflash for you. You're worth $1 gajillion a year. Every single one of you in here are worth a mountain of money. I've seen the work and the dedication and the efforts that you do. You're worth that. But I reinforce to our members, that is not the question that you are searching for, that you need answered. The question our members need answered are, in the consideration of the companies that you are pursuing, what can this company compensate you for making this role and responsibility, right? And filling this in this geographic area. That's the question that you need answered. And I'll stop there, Mike, but thoughts on that? Did I say that right? Did that resonate with you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that kind of goes into that fit conversation that we continue to have. And, I think one of the things that we talked about, earlier on in the cohort, when you're looking at these opportunities, you have these three pillars that you can look at, right? So, you're going to be able to stay in the location you want, you're going to be able to make the money you want, or you're going to be able to be happy and do something that you want to do with your life,
Sure.
right? And if everything on a perfect world works out, you get all three of those things. But more than likely than not, you're probably going to get two of them, right? And if you love Tucson, Arizona, or you love Toledo, Ohio, well, you're not going to get either the job that you want, or you're not going to make the money that you want to make in that position.
But that's it. Let me just inject real quick. But recognizing that, Scott,
yes.
we call that a misaligned strategy, right? In other words, you had a strategy, and now all of a sudden you're looking down at your market analysis and you're going, I can't do this job that I wanted to do in this area, or I can't make this much money in an area like this. So, something is not aligned, right? Either your strategy's got to change or what you're pursuing needs to change. But that's where the realization comes out, right, for our members. And they go, okay, I got it, right? When you pursue these opportunities. And Michael, you worked through that. You did that on a number
very much so
of times, right? Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was, I've had, some great mentors and advisors over the course of the last few months that have tried to put things into, I've moved over to be a FAO and a very successful one, but I still have an aviator brain. So I need to see pictures and get a mentality of things and how I look. Yeah. And I just got to kind of work through it. But, they came back and said, if you're looking in the defense industry and you want to be in a big company, one of the primes, and you're looking at that, you have to be okay and understand that if you get hired as the business development guy that's going to sell this cup to this country, that is your job. That's your job when you show up on Monday. That's your job on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for as long as you're in the company. And if you go to a medium-sized company and you go in as the BD guy to sell this cup, well, on Tuesday, they're going to say, hey, also, you're going to help with the plan to buy the handle for this cup on Tuesday. And you're going to help us capture this thing on Wednesday to come in here, find the right coffee for the cup on Thursday, and you kind of get in there. And there's no wrong answer to what you want to do with that. It's just, what do you want to do? Do you want to be the guy or girl that's in charge of this one thing in this one program? Or do you want to be the guy or girl that goes in and goes, I want to soak up as much information as I can, and I want to be able to get my hands in everything and go in there? And you have to ask those questions to yourself so you find what the right fit is in this place. And that's really what it comes down to. You're going to be happy going to work every day, doing some good work that you can be with some great people that you've met in order to attack the problems that you want to be successful.
We come back to our name, Scott and Mike, right? You guys remember this, blue water environment, right? I mean, and knowing that if you're on a ship in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by water, safe harbor, nearest point of land lies in any direction you want to go. But each of those individual directions, unique logistics, unique distances, unique everything. And so too is everybody's individual career progression. Listen, we've been doing this for almost 3 years now. I have yet to see 2 career progressions that I go, oh, yep, that's a repeat. This is exactly the same. They're never the same. We're talking people. You're talking personal mission, vision, priorities. Here's what I want to protect. Here's what I'm interested in. Here's where I want to do it, right? Here's what I'm happy with, compensation wise. They're all different. We haven't seen any of them the same. And that just comes back to the process, right? What may be a fit for you isn't going to be a fit for somebody else. And nor should it be, right? They're all individual, right? And Scott, you've dabbled around with this enough, and you've kind of been to a few of our cohorts. You get that, right? Everybody brings their own strategy on, hey, this is what I need to preserve in my, career progression going forward. And that's the way it should be, right? Anyway.
Yeah, here's kind of, I think to wrapping up an hour, this is a great quote to close this out. I don't know why. This is from CAPT, my friend over there in Stuttgart, who I introduced you to.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, CAPT. didn't pop up the name there. Anyways, but she's just alluding to our passions, and I think forget to have passions when you're in active duty military, and that's fair and understandable. And it sounds a little hokey sometimes, but however you define it, we've seen the miserable veteran. We don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how. And trust me, from a financial standpoint, if either your health or just your unhappiness, those can go down some dark paths, and the money ain't gonna save it. So don't mean to end it on a negative note. No, guys, that was an awesome conversation to sit in on. Appreciate sharing your tips, and for those watching. I mean, we've had about 10 or 11 people watching live this whole time, so thanks for everybody for showing up to watch us kind of get this off the ground. And so, Mike, thanks for joining us. Welcome back anytime. If you share have any more insights throughout the process.
Thanks.
And if anybody else wants to jump on with Norm and I to share some thoughts, because if every single one is different, same thing I see in my space, everybody tries to tell everybody to do retirement planning the same way. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. If we don't want to use our money, when we're getting out of the military, again, the idea is it's time to stop following orders. Not that was a bad thing, but at some point you literally have to start creating your own ones. And then that's okay. So awesome, Bert. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for putting this together. Love these things, right? Bert.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you very much. And Scott, I think my wife and I might try and get down to Virginia Beach at the end of the month to go check it out. So hopefully we'll get to see you in person and
fantastic. We'll be sure to reach out. And then, hey, recognize we're in fact, make a note on this, Michael. We always do the the social events after our cohorts, right? So it is in DC, September 27th. That's a Wednesday. So at the end of that day, we're going to be right back down where we were, right next, what was that, Pentagon City, right kind of down that way.
Yep.
And I'll send out a word to all our DC cohort members. You guys are all welcome to come on down and have a beer on us and interface with the newest Blue Water members at that time, right? We're really excited. And then help us get the word out, right? If you look at December 6th, Michael, we're almost half full at that cohort right now. I've got 4 seats, I think, open. So if you know of somebody, and this, Scott, we put this out to our members, don't send me somebody that you want that you don't want in your network. Don't push them here, right? I mean, if there's somebody that you want in your network, because we're building this network for us, right? And actually, right? I mean, there are some individuals that, hey, Mike, I really want the insights. I really like this. But you know what? Don't come knocking. And I'm like, that's not what we're building here. This is not what Blue Water is about.
No, that's a fair way to put it, because one of the ways I was thinking about, when we were talking about earlier, it's like kind of paying it back. Hey, I want to share some tips. Some of the best ways to share with those coming behind you is to keep building that network. It's like, hey, get better at it. Find better people. Whatever that means, because there's always going to be. Remember that first day you showed up, it's like, network, what's that? Yeah. I thought it was going to be handed to me. So there's some other person in that same boat. And, if you don't, like I titled the last show, if you don't know, who to know, then try to be the guy who knows the guy, so to speak. Right. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to know a bunch of people until I figure out what I want to do or who I want to be. It's at some point, it just become useful in that regard. And so that's a lot of different ways to pay back. But awesome insights,
thanks again,
guys.
Scott. We appreciate you hosting.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. This was great. Thanks for the invite too. This is awesome.
For joining. Yeah, it's awesome. And congratulations again to you. Well done, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Norm. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you.
High fives all around.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome, guys.
Right.
Oh, cool. That was fun. I'm glad we were able to do it. We'll do it again next Tuesday.
Love it.
All right.
All right.
Take care. I'll end the broadcast. You guys can hang out for a sec.